This video is probably not for you. It's for me. It's for future me. It's a time capsule sent out to the posterity for me to review at some later point. But if you're here and if you're curious, then welcome, settle down. This is a yearly check-in that I make every year around this time in May. From this year on, I'm going to give it a structure. I'm going to talk about the past, present, and the future. So last year's check-in, I started with talking about how that I quit smoking. Good news, it's been over a year now, and I'm smoke-free. That is on the personal note. Among the other things, the ventures, the things that I've been working on, they are taking shape. So in the context of what has happened so far, is that we have incorporated two of the entities already, Breakerspace and Solve Energy. Solve Energy already has a brick and mortar store. We are selling solar appliances. And for Breakerspace, it's still more on the lines of building out a community and starting productizations of the things that we want to in upcoming future. But in the context of the past, it was a bitch and a half to get the companies registered. The ones of you do not know how these formalities work. It is unnecessarily complicated. It is not meant to be a nice experience. It is reminiscent of 1980s, 1970s era legislation where the country's identity was more into the farming and stuff, not into industrialization, not into startup ecosystem. We did not want to see ourselves as capitalists, so our capitalism faced legislations were always a little bit more adversarial, to say the least, which means every time you want to go and do something, it's met with resistance. And until you have some form of or some way of short circuiting that, either through nepotism or through connections or network, whatever that may be, you will always have a bit more challenge doing things the right way, the clean way. And that is true. And it's not that we didn't know that. We knew that. It's just, it was so much harder than we thought it would be. But now that we have the organizations registered, the next step would be for us to start setting the revenue streams and operate on them. More on that later. One thing to mention here, Breakerspace Private Limited, but Solve Energy, getting the name was really hard. Even though it's not a name that is actually taken, they were keeping on rejecting us for, oh, Solve is already a name, solar is already a name, energy is already a name, somebody else has it. But Solve Energy is completely like, it is new, it's unique, and nobody has it. And they know that, but they just are not willing to give that out as a name. So what we did is that instead of trying and fighting and keeping on paying them, which is what I would assume is their business model, we just went ahead with the string reverse of Solve Energy. It's Yegrenevlos or something like that. We went with that. They absolutely couldn't find anything. Like they had no reason to reject it any longer, saying something else exists. So we went ahead and registered it. Not ideal. We intend to change the name at some point in time in future. Let's see how it goes. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is working on the productizations of Breakerspace. So we have been already alluding to through our Breakerspace YouTube channel, mentioning working on the camera modules on microphones that last year I demoed. And there are more stuff like that. We have been trying to find out how and which aspect of it is marketable. Do people love it? What's the margin like? How much are the premiums like? And how much changes that we can affect here? So it's not quite enough just to make a product. It also has to be something that is valuable to people. It has to be either made more sustainably or is better repairable. is way cheaper than the premium that usually costs, or some other form of differentiator that is unquestionably true and not yet another noise in the grand chaos. So that's not the thing. So we have been trying to justify our position there. We're trying to figure out what are the things, what are the SKUs that we can bring out to the market, and we have been having pretty good success with that. We have been having user testing with the devices that we have made, and none of the users who have tested it have returned it or complained about it. They have been happily using the devices, especially the microphones. So far, it's been almost a year now, and all the reviews have been good. We are now working on lights and all. More on that later. So that gives us great confidence. However, it's not that simple. Distribution is hard. Productization is definitely hard, but distribution is even harder. So that's something to keep in mind. So the products that we have been working on were the electret condenser microphones, but also DIY cameras, but we can do better on that. So aside from the hardware projects that we have been working on, trying to productize, there also has been some more traction on software projects as well. Namely, I made a tool called Kiosk, so that it sets up a Raspberry Pi as a kiosk, and that has had pretty good traction, as well as Xplex, the old project, is also starting to get more traction. I have got some very good suggestions from people who have been using it, along with suggestion from Momita as well. And I've been using her help to make the documentation and the website, etc., more accessible, more aligned with being more inviting, etc. And that has shown some promises. Meanwhile, one of my friend, Shayok, seemed very interested about working on that. He tried to spend some time with it. However, he got busy with many other stuff in life. So we were planning to get it out as a software as a service, but now I am kind of holding back on that and seeing if it is possible to keep it as a free and open source tool completely, and if there is any other form of revenue stream that is possible to be built on that. There has been pretty good traction on Xplex in general, because now it is available as a one-click app on DigitalOcean. Had to work on that. It took quite a lot of effort, but now it's there, and it has pretty good user base. The Docker Hub listing has thousands of pulls. The GitHub repository has lots of likes. So we know that it is something that people have been tracking and using, and generally the Reddit post and everything kind of giving a pretty good vibe about that. Only issue people seem to be having is with the names. Why is it so close to the name of Plex server, which is not a debate I want to get into. It doesn't make sense for me. Overall, it seemed like a pretty good tool that people are being benefited with, and I want to see how far we can go with that, and we'll see what kind of changes that we can make with it. With that, let's move on to the things that are happening now. So I am personally right now sharing a lot of attention across various projects. And even though I enjoy doing it, and it's not that I don't like it, I like it very much when my attention is completely saturated with various different topics. So none of them are boring me to death, and none of them are burning me out either. So now I have a pretty good balance of focusing on multiple different things, but also that means I need some kind of a maintainer essentially for each one of those projects, because I move in and out, I jump in and out, I solve the problems, and then I like to step out of it. Solve Energy has pretty good set of people there. So that one is kind of being taken care of very well. Breaker Space is the one that I am personally dealing with. There are other projects like, for example, Samshoptok, which is something now that is now on hold, because I have been trying to find out the right set of people to take care of it, and it has always been very, very, very challenging to get there. So it's on the hold. However, now I have an editor, video editor. We have published our first video called on Roshan. Overall experience of working with him has been pretty nice. So we'll see how it goes. Anthropic inertia is also something that has been on hold for quite a bit. So at some point in time, I'm pretty sure we'll be confident enough to push on that. I have a repository of ideas that I want to push into entrepreneurship, and that is there whenever we decide that this is the time we want to make the push on entrepreneurship, we can. As I was saying, there are a lot of different projects that are going on. I need helping hand. It's really difficult to find people who are not casual bean counters, incentive chasers, who want to do something on their own, has high agency and smart enough to go on about it. I need to find the people who still have their own needs intact. In a sense, they are not just going ahead and making somebody else's dream come true. They have their own stuff they look forward to. I just need to align my goals and dreams with theirs so that we get to go somewhere together. So with that said, some more stuff that needs to come out are stuff about personal brand building, podcasts and blog posts and stuff like that. My primary modality is writing. I like to write more. This talking is not really my primary modality. Making video is not my primary modality. Even though I enjoy doing that, does not mean I am natural in this state. It takes me great effort to try and do that every time, and probably at some point in time I'll publish stuff in a written format. Right now the challenge is to start making the positive revenue stream, where the amount of money and effort that we're putting in, we need more of that out of the system. And once that has started, that has begun, we can take much stronger and more loftier bets. And that's something that I want to talk about maybe the next update next year. So there's to that future. So now that we are through with how the stuff are, the updates from my side, I think I would also want to go through a list of predictions the bets that I'm taking, the predictions that I'm making. It's not about how things were or are, but how they're going to be, or so I think. So this is where I have to start by talking about AI. I have been somebody who has been speaking about AI nonstop for quite a while now, and this quite a while is not just a couple of months, couple of years. So I have given a talk about AI is taking up jobs of software engineers as far back as 2017, back when I used to work at Red Hat. And whenever I see that this is going to happen, they always happen. I have had a streak of being right about these things. Usually what happens is that they come into effect later than I have predicted them to be. So if I predict something will take 6 years, they will probably take 10 years. Aside from that, the specific part, the reason I bring up AI taking up software engineers' job is that is something that is happening at this moment, right now. Right now, being a software engineer is a tricky business unless you have been a software engineer for 10-15 years, in which case you can now utilize the tools to write software for you, and you can be the team lead of multiple different AI agents that are working for you. If you are a new or budding software engineer, well, shit, tough luck. This is going to be hard. You need to find something else to do at the moment, or build something from scratch, build something new without needing to ask somebody else for permission or ideas. Do something that you want and solve a real problem. Instead of waiting for somebody else to do that, go ahead and build something new. Be your first customer, be your first user. And if you're able to do that, there's the utility to that. Now, I say that, but coding AI is not the only thing that is happening. So in general, if you're talking about something that you can define, you can describe, be certain that it will be and can be done better by an AI. That is the future. What to want, that is the part where you need human help, human ingenuity, at least for foreseeable future. Anything else that you think can be described, defined, or metricized can and will definitely be done by AI. It's any skill, either that is physical or mental, it will be done by some form of AI or robotics in upcoming future. Be very sure of that. Now, the infrastructure of AI would require a huge amount of compute and huge amount of energy. Those two things you can be damn sure about that everybody will chase. Even though it seems like the world is right now chasing for some form of tariffs, bans, trade wars, etc., etc. Like, be very sure at some certain point in time, those medieval approaches would be very clearly the obsolete approaches that no longer generates effect anymore. You would hope, like, optimistically, with the doe-eyed innocence, I would hope that people would start figuring out why that is necessary, even though there will always be people, especially the older ones who have grown up in a Cold War era, who have grown up with a lot of generational trauma, seeing the world in a adversarial lens. So pick up the arms before somebody else picks up the arm, and that's a losing strategy in this particular time, day and age. And I'm pretty sure once these people subside, the newer generation would see the world under a better light. But that's far off. That's too far off. In current or next year, you would see generally a trend towards more and more energy consumption and compute that we would need in order to enable those infrastructure. And even the countries or economies that are not that well suited, the reason they will position themselves better is if they align themselves with compute or energy harvesting goals, where they will gradually start making better progress. So that's something that I'm projecting out towards. I'm also personally trying to work towards all those things as well as I'm speaking, because if you notice, Solve Energy is fundamentally for energy harvesting, and Breaker Space is fundamentally for making compute more widespread. So those are my takes on this, and this is not, again, I didn't really just have a dream yesterday night and starting to talk about it today. This has been quite a long time, and I'm seeing more and more the goals are actually, my predictions are actually aligning with the way the world is headed. I hope the next time I pick up the camera for next year's yearly check-in, by then be sure that AGI is there to stay. But in between, there will be some more fundamental changes, and one of the things would be like a rampant surge in grift, people grifting each other, and a lot of selection pressures, making people or forcing people to do things that are out of the norm, because a lot of people will be displaced from their job security, from their economic stability, and they will try to find and figure out what are the other options that we can try and accommodate. So there will be a lot to keep your eyes and ears open to, and this is something that is gonna only increase. There's not a inflection point where it'll go up at a maximum and then go down. No, the world is inevitably changing towards a faster pace. Things will start making appearances, and in an hourly manner or a minutely manner, they'll start affecting the global stage, the way previously it used to happen in the yearly basis or monthly basis. Now it's happening on a weekly basis. We shift our focus and there's a new stuff in the next week. This is only gonna accelerate. This frequency is gonna accelerate, and it's gonna become hours and minutes. Even though it sounds ridiculous at this moment, by next year you will start seeing the effect of hourly updates, how much you would need to keep in tune with the changes of the world if you would want to. Or some people would choose not to, they would choose a more timeless approach, and I think that is overall better for self-preservation. So basically you have to find your zen and stick with it, and understand how much of the things that we keep on chasing are transient, are there right now and would not be tomorrow, and hence not worth chasing, because there will be something more interesting tomorrow anyway. Why waste your time chasing up something that is way too transient? At that point, the value of novelty kind of goes down, given the effort that it requires for chasing that novelty. So I'd assume that is something that is going to happen in upcoming year. And with all that said, I would like to bring this yearly checking to a close. I'm sure there are a lot of things I would like to talk about and like to go in depth. However, I did not in this particular video, because perhaps they slipped my mind, or they're perhaps not as important. One thing I definitely want to still, as a last point, mention is that I'm still having conversations with my friends on a weekly basis. That's something that I mentioned last year, and I'm glad that I did, and that only kind of strengthened my resolve. So it's over 2 years on. I have weekly catch ups with my friends. Some of them come and go, some of them are more permanent. I am trying to figure out, maybe there's a balance to it. So this is one way, has been a grounding experience for me, which is why I want to let it stay. And we'll probably touch on that as well on the next upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and see you again the next time. Cheers.